With a second-hand campervan or motorhome costing multiple tens of thousands of pounds, you want to ensure that it lasts. So let's look at some of the maintenance and protection tips and tricks for avoiding long-term issues. Hi, it's Dave T here, and 2 years ago we traded in our caravan for a second-hand campervan, and one of the things that surprised me was the number of horror stories about maintenance issues and, more importantly, ideas and theories on how to avoid them. So in this video I'm going to run through some of those issues and talk about preventative actions and modifications. I'm sure I won't mention all of the issues out there, so if you know of other issues and especially the tips on how to avoid them, then please do mention them in the comments. Now I'm going to try and organise this video based on the solutions or fixes, with the relatively low cost or free fixes first and then the more expensive ones later. I'll give a brief explanation of the issues, but I'm not a qualified mechanic, so these will be very much simplified descriptions. Also, I'm going to focus somewhat on Ducato and Ford-based vehicles, since that's the experience I've had, and to be honest, that covers the largest portion of the UK market. And a lot of these issues are not necessarily going to be brand specific anyway. Now, leisure vehicles are different, so to begin with, let's just set the scene. Most leisure vehicles, campervans and motorhomes are effectively commercial vehicles that have been converted, and this video is mainly focused on the vehicle side. Having said that, they are significantly different from the original commercial vehicles in terms of how they are used, which makes a major difference in terms of maintenance. Apart from having a bed or kitchen in the back, the main differences we are going to be interested in are weight and usage. Leisure vehicles, whilst having a similar maximum permitted weight to the base vehicle, are very different in that they are typically always run at their maximum weight. For example, imagine a 3.5 tonne delivery van. It has a maximum weight of 3,500 kilos, the same as the base vehicle used for most campervans like this. But unlike a delivery van, which may start the day full of packages and close to its max weight, by the end of the day it will likely be empty. A leisure vehicle will typically always be the same weight when driving, give or take 50 kilos or so. In terms of usage, the difference is even greater, with a commercial van typically being used most days and an average mileage of between 12 and 20,000 miles per year. A leisure vehicle, on the other hand, will have an annual mileage of somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 miles, most of that in the summer, with long periods during the winter being parked up. These and other factors significantly affect the likelihood of certain issues and thus the maintenance requirements to avoid them. So let's take a look at what to do about it. So this section is going to cover how you can, in theory, subtly change your usage to increase your vehicle lifespan at little or no cost. Now, AdBlue is a mixture of deionized water and synthetic urea, basically water and pee. This is injected into the exhaust system to reduce nitrous oxide emissions. This happens after combustions, so it has no effect on actual engine performance. But the system of pumps, injectors and sensors is, well, let's just say sensitive, and if it goes wrong it can be very expensive, and the engine management system will actually completely disable the engine, making the vehicle undrivable. The biggest problem for leisure vehicles is the low mileage that they do. 10 litres of AdBlue will last for between 3,000 and 6,000 miles. That means a van's typical 20 litre tank will need to be filled every 3 or 4 months on a commercial vehicle, but could last up to 6 years on a camper. Now, the problem is that the urea in AdBlue can crystallise when in contact with the air, and those crystals can mess up sensors and injectors. The less AdBlue in the tank, the more air and the higher risk of crystallisation. The solution is to keep the AdBlue topped up rather than waiting for it to run out. It can be tricky finding small bottles of AdBlue, but it only costs about £1 or so a litre, so even if you have to throw away unused AdBlue, it's still a low-cost fix. Another feature of modern diesel engines is the DPF, or diesel particulate filter. This is pretty much what its name suggests, a filter in the exhaust system for catching diesel particles. That's soot to you and me, rather than pumping it out into the air. Just like the filter in your vacuum cleaner, a DPF gets clogged up with soot over time. But instead of having to replace the DPF, the engine management system can actually clean it itself using a process called the DPF regeneration cycle. And no, that's not an 80s pop band. There are actually two types of regeneration cycles, and as I explain them, you'll likely realise why the leisure vehicle usage affects this, possibly actually in a good way. Passive regeneration happens automatically during long, high-speed driving. During such trips, the exhaust and DPF naturally get hot enough, that's over 200 degrees Celsius, to burn off accumulated soot. A vehicle that is only used for short trips, let's say a local tradesman like a plumber, is far less likely to reach passive regeneration temperatures. A leisure vehicle, on the other hand, is far more likely to do a long run, say up to Scotland or the south of France, where it would very likely get up to regen temperature. So try to ensure that you do regular long trips, importantly with long high-speed sections. A pattern of only short journeys can play havoc with the DPF regeneration and lead to limp mode, as a relation of mine discovered in their Range Rover. Now the kicker in this, however, is that the eco mode power option in many vehicles will actually reduce engine speed and therefore temperature. So it makes sense to limit the use of eco mode, especially if you are only doing medium length journeys. The engine does, however, have a trick up its sleeve to ensure that the DPF is cleaned, and that is active regeneration. This process involves introducing unburnt fuel into the exhaust, usually by retarding the injection timing. This fuel soon oxidizes, that's burns, in the exhaust system, raising the temperature drastically and burning off the soot in the DPF, thus cleaning it. Sounds like the engine has you covered, right? Well, sort of, because active regen has some downsides. Firstly, if it's interrupted by the engine being turned off mid-regen, but also some of the unburnt fuel can actually seep past the piston rings and enter the lower engine. This fuel then contaminates and dilutes the engine oil. Diluted engine oil can increase engine wear. Additionally, if you drive a Ford with a wet belt, then this was the stated reason for Fords reducing the wet belt change interval. If you've only ever driven cars, then you'll likely be used to changing tyres basically when their tread wears out. However, tyres can also age out, mainly because of the UV sunlight, which degrades the tyre's rubber. Now, the rubber used in tyres contains special chemicals which protect against this UV damage. However, those chemicals only work best if the vehicle is driven, as the heat and movement activate the chemicals in the tyre. The simple solution is to ensure that you regularly take your van for a drive, even if only for a short one. It will also mean that the van is less likely to be reparked with exactly the same point of the tyre on the ground, thus helping to avoid bulging and cracking. You can also consider getting tyre covers to keep them in the shade, but most importantly, check the dates on your tyres to ensure that they have not aged past the recommended maximum. Additional maintenance can also go a long way to increase your vehicle's lifespan. A lead acid battery naturally self-discharges by up to 5% each month. Add to that parasitic current draw from things like alarms and radios, and a battery can soon become discharged if the van is left unused for months. Batteries, especially lead acid vehicle batteries, do not like being left at low charge, so letting it get too low can actually damage the battery and reduce its overall capacity. Checking the van regularly is recommended, and a tracker is a great way to do this remotely. Visiting the van and running the engine is the common solution, but really not ideal. You typically have to run an engine at idle for about half an hour just to replace the energy used by starting it. Also, regularly running the engine for longish periods at idle is not going to help the previously mentioned DPF issues. The best option is to ensure that there is some form of constant trickle charge, such as from a solar panel, to keep the battery at least partially topped up when parked. Also, take the van for a reasonably long run every month or so. After all, the idea is to enjoy your van, and what could be better in the midst of winter than a quick trip to the coast enjoying a cuppa in the van? And it's also most important to think of maintenance for leisure vehicles in time as much as miles. For example, a Ducato timing belt change mileage interval is about 100,000 miles. That would take the average camper about 25 years to reach, but the age interval is every 5 years. Also, effectively over-maintaining, for example annual oil changes, even if mileage or time durations have not been reached, can be a relatively inexpensive way to improve longevity. So finally we come on to the various fixes suggested online and elsewhere, usually aimed at solving more specific issues. By definition, some of these are brand or model specific, so I'll start with the more general ones. And once again, if you know of others, then please do mention them in the comments. Scuttle drains at the bottom of the windscreens are a magnet for leaves, moss and other debris to collect. This can lead to the drain holes at the bottom of the scuttle drain getting blocked and the whole drain filling up with water, which then cascades over the top and onto the engine. Theoretically, the engine bay is designed as a wet space, and so water shouldn't really be an issue, but it's far from ideal and on specific models can cause secondary issues. For example, on more recent Ducatos with electric steering, the water can actually get into the power steering cable harness, causing major problems. On the Ford Transit, there are stories of water getting onto the injectors and rusting them or causing other problems. The fixes? Well, the cheapest is to clean out your scuttle drains regularly and especially check that the small drain holes are clear. Also, you can get windscreen covers, which, unlike this one, actually extend over the top of the scuttle drain, keeping the scuttle drain clear of debris and water. For the Ford Transit, some people have actually designed and manufactured plates to divert any water away from the injectors. These can range in price from immaculately fabricated and finished products for £169 to much more basic variants on eBay and Amazon for roughly half the price. There are similar aftermarket trays and water deflectors for the Ducato. Do they work, or perhaps more importantly, are they needed? Well, that's the thing, because to really know, in the case of the Transit injector protectors, if they have saved you from an expensive bill, you would have had to had an injector issue require removal of the injector, then the injector being found to have corroded, making removal difficult or expensive, and also then the corrosion actually having been caused by water ingress from above as opposed to just general corrosion. So even if the drip tray fix had been installed and the injectors not been corroded, it would be difficult to say if the tray had been the prevention or the issue just wouldn't have occurred in the first place. This is where some of these ideas may stray into the territory of better safe than sorry and doesn't actually necessarily mean that they are worthwhile. I'm certainly not saying they are a waste of money, but it is more of a gut instinct decision in some cases, as opposed to engineering science to decide if they warrant the expense. Now, when it comes to automatic gearboxes, especially the 9-speed auto on some Ducato models, they can suffer catastrophic failure even on low mileage vehicles. This has been attributed to high torque loads put on the gearbox, especially on vehicles with higher power engine variants. This is in part exacerbated by the typical high running weights of leisure vehicles, and changing driving practice to use a lower gear is one possible solution. As previously mentioned, not using eco mode will generally ensure higher revs and therefore lower transmission torque load, as will using the high power setting. Speaking of autos, whilst researching this video, I found a recommendation to always use the handbrake as often as possible to avoid wear on the transmission pull, which at least is a free fix. So in conclusion, any mechanical product will be susceptible to failures. This is more true when a product is being used in a manner which is outside of its normal and therefore tested use case. Most of those failures, with hindsight gifted from others, can be predicted and avoided. The point at which a line is crossed from sensible precaution to obsessive worry and spending money to fix non-issues, well, that's a difficult one to judge. But I hope that this video has at least been interesting, and if it has, then please do hit that like button. If you'd like to see more videos that I make, then please do subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to be notified of new videos as I post them. But most of all, thanks for watching.